Now we're going to be looking at basic selectors. Okay, we're going to be looking at three selectors: element selector, class selector, and ID selectors. CSS selectors are used to find or select the HTML elements you want to style. We have seen examples of this by using this div. I've also seen it by using this span. Okay, so we selected the elements that we wanted to apply. And there are three ways we can do this. The first one is the element selector. The element selector selects HTML elements based on the element name. Just like we did over here, span is the name of the element we wanted to apply pink background color to. So we have our span tag. You have your opening and closing curly brackets, and then the property and value. Okay, so what this does is that it's going to select all the span in the it's going to select all the span in your HTML and apply pink background to it. Even if you have 1000 spans, if you use this element selector, it's going to apply all this style you choose to that span tag. So if you know you don't want all your elements to have the same style, you don't want all your span elements to have the same style, it's better you don't use element selector. So the next one we'll be looking at is the ID selector. The ID selector uses ID attributes of an HTML element to select a specific element. So let's go back here. I'm going to add h2 and then I'll write testing ID. Okay, and in this h2 I'm going to give it an ID of heading 2. So in the style tag, I'm going to come and select the ID. And you select the ID of your element by using the hash and then followed by the name of the ID. I gave mine heading 2, so I'm just going to type heading 2 over here. And don't forget your opening and closing brackets. So what I'm going to do is, before we continue, let's see what it looks like. You can see it is color black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this testing ID a background color of, let's use this color, heading 2. Oh, okay. Remember that one has. Oh, I didn't spell it correctly. So it's going to give this testing ID this background color of brown. Okay, so that's how we use it. And then we have the class selector, which selects HTML elements with specific class attributes. So let's go back to our code. I'm going to give this h2 tag a class of, let me see. I'll just give it 2. I'm going to type 2 here. A class of 2. And for us to use it in our styling, you need to select it. And the way you can select an element by its class is by using the full stop, also known as your period, and then you specify the name of the element. I gave my own class 2, okay, not the element. You specify the name of the class. So my own is 2. So type 2 here. And what I want to do is that I want that h2 to be at the center of the screen, not at the start anymore. So I'll come over here and use a property called text align, and then I'll choose the value of center. So let's see. You can see it is now at the center. So this is how we use these 3 elements. You select your class by writing a period character followed by the class name. Select your ID by writing a hash character followed by the ID of the element. So this is how we use these basic selectors in CSS. And the next thing we'll be looking at is grouping and universal selector. And grouping and universal selector, yes. Now, there are times that maybe you have a span tag, a tag, and then a p tag. You want these three elements to have a text color of red. Okay, what you might typically do is that maybe in your CSS, you do this color, color. This color property is used to change your text color red. Then you come again, use the A element, you add another color red, and then you come again for the span tag, you add another color red. Now this would definitely work, but what is the point of this repetition? What is the point of this repetition? And that is where we have grouping. That is why we have CSS grouping. Grouping in CSS is a technique that allows you to apply the same style to multiple selectors at once instead of repeating the same CSS for each element. And this is done by separating selectors with comma. So let's look at how it's done. Now we want to apply this style to a tag and span tag. Okay, so I'm just going to come to this p tag and I'll add a comma, specify the element, which is the a tag. I'll add another comma, specify the span, which is the span tag. Okay, so I'm going to erase these two. And by writing this, I have successfully applied the color of red to the P, A, and span text. I don't need to come and write it one after the other anymore. So this is how we group in CSS. Up next, we are going to look at the universal selector. Okay, let's say for some reason you want all the text in your browser to be aligned in the center of the browser, or you want it to be at the end of the browser. You can use a universal selector because that means you want everything in your browser to be in the middle. So the universal selector, which means we are going to use the asterisk sign, is used to select all elements on a page and apply styles to them. So let's look at it. We are going to use the asterisk and then opening tag, and I'm going to use the text align property to make all the text move to the center of the screen. So after doing this, I'll save, and then when we go back to our browser, you can see everything is now in the middle. Everything is now in the middle. So that is what universal selector is for. You use it to apply the same style to all your content in the same page or within a scope. And this is where the theory for the class ends. You can go to part 3 to watch the class exercise. And this is where we are stopping for the theory, because learning actually starts by implementation. So head over to part 3 of lesson 3, and then we'll continue with our class exercise together.